Life, the thing we so often treat as a serious, almost heavy project, never asked us to carry it with such tension. We were the ones who decided that to live means to struggle, that only what costs us effort is meaningful, that peace must be earned through fatigue. We made a deal with the world. I'll suffer now, and you'll reward me later. But life never agreed to that contract. It doesn't demand pain in exchange for happiness. It only asks for presence, pure, simple, genuine presence. And learning to live lightly is the art of seeing that simplicity in the middle of chaos. To live lightly doesn't mean to be careless, shallow, or detached. It doesn't mean to run away from depth or to deny pain. It's about an inner state where you stop carrying everything that was never yours to begin with. We've learned to confuse heaviness with meaning. We think, if I'm tired, I must be doing something important. If I'm anxious, it means I care. But life is not measured by effort. It's measured by the quality of attention with which you meet each moment. Why is it so hard for most people to live lightly? Because we cling. We hold on to expectations, to the past, to the image of who we think we should be and what the world should look like. We hold on with both hands, terrified that if we let go even for a second, everything will collapse. But what we forget is that nothing that's gripped too tightly can breathe. And what cannot breathe, slowly dies. Sometimes, to come back to life, you have to loosen your grip. Lightness begins not in external comfort, but in an inner decision. It begins when you stop believing that everything must go according to plan, when you stop expecting life to be fair, when you stop demanding perfection from yourself. For too long we've lived under the illusion that life must be flawless, that happiness is a result, not a way of being, that lightness comes only after all problems are solved. But problems never end. And if you postpone peace until someday, that day will never come. To live lightly means to allow yourself to be human, not a self-improvement project. We've optimized everything: time, productivity, relationships, even our emotions. But life is not a performance review. It's a rhythm, a breath, sometimes deep and clear, sometimes uneven. Living lightly is not about control, but about allowing the flow to carry you and trusting that it knows where to go. It might seem that lightness is the privilege of those whose lives are already stable. But it isn't. True lightness doesn't come from having fewer problems. It comes from resisting less. It's the ability to face life as it is, without adding unnecessary drama. Most of our pain doesn't come from what happens, but from how we fight it. We say, "This shouldn't have happened. I wasn't ready. This isn't fair." But life never promised a script. It only offered a stage. And those who stop arguing with the scene learn to move through it with grace. One of the quiet powers of lightness is the ability to let go, not only of people or situations, but of yourself, of the versions you've outgrown. We carry so many outdated stories inside us that sometimes we forget who we are right now. We replay old memories instead of allowing ourselves to begin anew. Lightness comes when you stop defending the person you used to be and start allowing yourself to become who you are now. And here's something important. You can't live lightly without honesty. You can't feel light while pretending. We wear masks, we strive to look composed, we say everything's fine even when it's not. But lightness cannot live in falseness. It arrives when you drop the act and let yourself be real, with your fatigue, your uncertainty, your sadness, your softness. Because lightness isn't everything is perfect. It's everything is real, and I'm still here. How do you start living lightly in practice? First, stop doing what no longer holds meaning. We cling to jobs, habits, relationships simply because we fear the empty space that might come after. But emptiness is not the enemy, it's fertile ground. It's what allows something new to grow. Sometimes living lightly begins with one honest decision. To say no to what drains you and yes to what breathes life into you. That yes can be small. A slow coffee, a walk without a destination, a conversation without pretending. Lightness is built not from grand transformations, but from 100 small choices to be freer today than you were yesterday. There's another step. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. We spend so much energy trying to be understood, justifying our decisions, seeking approval, asking silently, "Do you still like me if I change?" But life becomes lighter when you stop defending your existence. When you no longer need permission to follow what feels right. When you simply move in your direction without apologizing for it. To live lightly means to let life be itself, not to fix it, label it, or demand meaning from it every second. Sometimes you just need to allow the day to be a day. No productivity, no value, no score. Because it's in those unremarkable moments that we actually touch the fullness of being alive. Lightness is not the absence of depth. It's the presence of peace within depth. It's what allows you to breathe while looking straight into life, to feel without being consumed, to care without carrying the entire world on your shoulders. When you stop trying to win at life and start being with life, everything changes. Then, something extraordinary happens. The world stops demanding your tension. What you once struggled to control starts unfolding naturally. Not because you've given up, but because you've stopped interfering. You start moving not out of fear, but out of flow. Not from obligation, but from love. Love not for someone else, but for the sheer act of living itself. To live lightly doesn't mean everything will now be easy. It means you've learned to walk without dragging the stones of the past behind you. It means you've found space inside yourself, for rest, for trust, for quiet. And in that space, life begins to sound different, softer, wider, freer. It stops being a task and becomes a movement. In the end, lightness isn't a goal to reach, it's a way to exist. It's the gentle agreement with life that says, everything is already enough, even if it's not perfect. And from that agreement comes the deepest kind of freedom, the freedom to simply be. To stop rushing. To stop proving. To stop holding so tightly. Everything you're searching for is already here. Everything you've been waiting for is already happening. You don't have to earn your right to live easily. You only have to allow it. And maybe that's what the art of living really is. Not to perfect life, but to soften into it. Not to conquer the world, but to finally stop fighting with it. Not to become someone extraordinary, but to remember that being alive, right now, is already enough. That is lightness. That is life.